Today, I'm going to say something about Jainism. Look at the madness of this man. Yes, I can jump from one peak to another without any bridge between. But you have to tolerate the madman. You have fallen in love. It is your responsibility. Jainism is the most ascetic religion in the world. Or in other words, the most masochistic and sadistic. Jaina monks torture themselves so much that one wonders if they are insane. They are not. They are businessmen, and the followers of the Jaina monks are all businessmen. I must have been about 4 or 5 years old when I saw the first naked Jaina monk being invited into my grandmother's house. Jainism is the only religion in the world which respects suicide. Now it is your turn to be surprised. Of course, they do not call it suicide. They give it a beautiful metaphysical name. Samsara. I am against it, particularly the way it is done. It is violent and cruel. It is strange that a religion which believes in non-violence should preach samsara, suicide. You can call it metaphysical suicide, but suicide is suicide. Why am I against it? I am not against the right of man to commit suicide. It should be one of the basic human rights. If I don't want to live, who has the right to force me to live? Just the other day, someone showed me a car sticker. It says, "I am proud that I am an American." I looked at it, and afterwards I carried over it. I am not an American, and I am proud that I am not an American. Who am I? I am proud that I am nobody. That is where my whole journey has brought me. I am the first citizen of the universe. You know, I am crazy. I could start issuing passports for universal citizenship. I am not against the Jaina attitude to suicide, but the method. Their method is not to eat anything. It takes almost 90 days for the poor man to die. It is torture. You cannot improve on it. Every year the Jaina monk pulls out his hair, beard, and mustache, and our hair on the body, just with his bare hands. They are against any technology. Jaina monks pull out their hair, and not privately, because they do not have any privacy. Part of their masochism is not to have any privacy, to be utterly public. The idea of committing samsara, suicide, by not eating or drinking is nothing but a very long process of self-torture. I cannot support it, but I am absolutely in support of the idea of the freedom to die. To torture anybody, including yourself, is a crime. With this, you will be able to understand that I was not being rude. I was asking a very relevant question. The day I began my life as a rebel, and I will continue to be a rebel to my very last breath, or even after it, who knows? Even if I won't have the body, I will have thousands of my lovers' bodies. I can provoke them, And you know I am a seducer. I can put ideas in their heads for centuries to come. That day was significant, historically significant. I have always remembered that day along with the day when Jesus argued with the rabbis. I don't remember the name of the Jaina monk. Perhaps it is Shanti Sagar, meaning ocean of bliss. He certainly was not that. That is why I have forgotten even his name. Shanti can mean many things. It may mean peace. It may mean silence. He was neither peaceful nor silent, nor could you say that he was without any turmoil in him because he became so angry that he shouted at me to sit down. I said, "Nobody can tell me to sit down in my own house. I can tell you to get out, but you cannot tell me to sit down. But I will not tell you to get out because I have a few more questions. Please don't be angry. Remember your name, Shanti Sagar. You could at least be a little poor. And don't be disturbed by a little child." Without bothering whether he was silent or not, I asked my grandmother, who was by now a laughter, "What do you say, Nani? Should I ask him more questions or tell him to get out of our house?" My Nani said, "You can ask whatsoever you want to, and if he cannot answer, the door is open, he can get out." That was the woman I loved. That was the woman who made me a rebel. If my grandfather was shocked that she supported me in such a way. I asked him a few more questions. I asked, "You have said don't believe anything unless you have experienced it yourself. I see the truth in that. Hence, I ask a question. Jainas believe there are 7 spheres. Up to the 6th, there is a possibility of coming back, but the 7th is eternal. Perhaps the 7th is the Christian hell because there is 2. There are 2. Once you are in it, you are in it forever." I continued, "You referred to 7th hells. So the question arises, have you visited the 7th? If you have, then you could not be here. If you have not, on what authority do you say that it exists? You should say that there are only 6 hells, not 7. Now please be correct. Say that there are only 6 hells, or if you want to insist on 7, then prove to me that at least one man, Shanti Sagar, has come back from the 7th hell." He was dumbfounded. He could not believe that a child could ask such a question. Today I too cannot believe it. How could I ask such a question? The only answer I can give is that I was uneducated and without any knowledge. Knowledge makes you very cunning. I am not cunning. My grandmother stood up and said, "You have to answer the question. Don't think that only a child is asking. I am also asking, and I'm your hostess. Now again I have to introduce you to a Jaina convention. When a Jaina monk comes to a family to receive his food, after taking his meal as a blessing to the family, he gives a sermon. The sermon is addressed to the hostess. My grandmother said, "I'm your hostess today, and I also am asking the same question." The monk became so puzzled and confused that he started to leave. My nanny shouted, "Stop, don't leave. Who is going to answer my child's question?" And he still has a few more to ask. "What kind of man are you, escaping from a child questions?" The man stopped. I said to him, "I dropped the second question because the monk cannot answer it. He has not answered the first question either. So I will ask him the third. Perhaps he may be able to answer that." He looked at me. I said, "If you want to look at me, look into my eyes." There was great silence, just as it is here. The monk lowered his eyes and then said, "Then I don't want to ask. My first two questions are unanswered, and the third is not asked because I don't want a guest of a house to be ashamed. I withdrew." And I really withdrew from the gathering. And I was so happy when my grandmother followed me. The monk was given his farewell by my grandfather, but as soon as he had left, my grandfather rushed back into the house and asked my grandmother, "Are you mad? First you supported this boy who is a born troublemaker, then you went with him without even saying goodbye." My grandmother said, "He is not my master, so I don't care a bit. Moreover, what you think to be a born troublemaker is the seed. Nobody knows what will come out of it. I know what has come out of it." That day is immensely significant in order to understand what happened during my whole life. Because unless you understand the seed, you will miss the tree and the flowering, and perhaps the moon through the branches. The Jaina monk came to our house again. It will be difficult for you to understand why he had come again when he had left our house in such anger. I have to explain the context to you. A Jaina monk cannot take food from anybody except another Jaina. And unfortunately for him, we were the only Jaina family in the village. He could not beg elsewhere for his food. I and my nanny were both waiting upstairs, watching from the window because we knew he had to come. My nanny said to me, "Look, he's coming. Now what are you going to ask him today?" "I don't know. First, let him at least eat. And then, conventionally, he is bound to address the family and the people who have gathered." After each meal, a Jaina monk delivers a sermon. "Then don't be worried," I told her. "I will find something or other to ask. First, let him speak." He was very cautious in speaking and very brief, which was unusual. But whether you speak or not, if someone wants to question you, he can. He can question your silence. The monk was speaking about the beauty of existence, thinking perhaps that it could not create any trouble, but it did. I stood up. My nanny was laughing at the back of the room. I can still hear her laughter. I asked, "Who created this beautiful universe?" "Jainas do not believe in God. It is difficult for the Western Christian mind to even comprehend a religion that does not believe in God. China is superior to Christianity. He answered, "Nobody." That was what I was waiting for. I then said, "Can such beauty be created by nobody?" He said, "Please don't misunderstand me." This time he had come prepared. He looked more together. "Please don't misunderstand me. I am not saying that no one is someone." I said to the monk, "I know that no one is no one, but you talk so beautifully, so praisingly of existence that it shocked me. Because Chinas are not supposed to do that. It seems that because of yesterday's experience, you have changed your tactics. You can change your tactics, but you cannot change me. I still ask, if no one created the universe, how did it come to be?" He looked here and there. All were silent except for my nanny, who was laughing. The monk asked me, "Do you know how it came to be?" I said, "It has always been there. There is no need for it to come." I can confirm that sentence after 45 years. The Jaina monk did not turn up on the third day. He escaped from our village to the next, where there was another Jaina family. But I must pay homage to him. Without knowing it, he started a small child on the journey toward the truth. Since then, how many people have I asked the same question and found the same ignorance facing me? Great pundits, knowledgeable people, great Mahatmas worshipped by thousands, and yet not able to answer a simple question put by a child. In fact, no real question has ever been answered, and I predict that no real question will ever be answered, because when you come to a real question, the only answer is silence. There have been many silent people in the world who have not been of any help to others. Although they had found the answer, they were not able to proclaim it. And unless you are able to proclaim it from the housetops. Your answer is not of much value. The real master not only knows but helps millions to know. His knowledge is not private. It is open to all those who are ready to receive. I have known the answer. The question I have carried for thousands of years, in one body, in another body, through one body to another body, but the answer has happened for the first time. It has happened only because I questioned persistently without any fear. I am recalling these incidents to make you aware that unless one asks, it is difficult to ask oneself. When one is thrown out from every door, then at last one turns withinwards, and there is the answer. It is not written. You will not find a Bible, a Torah, or a Quran, or a Gita, a Tao Te Ching, or a Dhammapada. No, you won't find anything written there. Nor will you find anyone there either. No God, no father figure, smiling and patting you on your back, saying, "So, good, my son, you have come home. I forgive all your sins. No, you will not find anyone there. What you will find is a tremendous silence, so dense that one feels one can touch it, like a woman. One can feel it like a beautiful woman. When the monk had disappeared from the village, we laughed continuously for days, particularly my nanny and I. I cannot believe how childlike she was. Even now I can still see the back of the escaping monk. China monks are not so beautiful people. They cannot be. That encounter, yes, that's the right word. That encounter with the China mystic began thousands of other encounters. China, Hindu, Mohammedan, Christian, and I was ready to do anything just to have a good argument. The village where I was born was not part of the British Empire. It was a small state ruled by a Mohammedan queen. I can see her now, strange. She was also as beautiful as the Queen of England. But there was one good thing. She was Mohammedan, whereas the Queen of England is not. Such women should always be Mohammedan, because they have to remain hidden behind a veil called burqa. She used to visit our village once in a while, and in the village my house was the only one where she could stay. And moreover, she loved my grandma. My nanny and she were both talking when I first saw the queen without the veil. I could not believe it. Queen and so homely. Then I understood the purpose of the burqa, what the Hindus called parda. It is good for ugly women. In a better world, it would be good for ugly men too. At least then you can't attack anybody with your ugliness. It is an aggression. If beauty is an attraction, then what is ugliness? It is an aggression, an attack, and nobody is protected against it. No law protects anyone. I laughed in the very face of the queen. She said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "I am laughing because I always wondered what was the purpose of the parda and burqa. Today I know." I don't think she understood because she smiled. Although she was an ugly woman, I must concede her smile was beautiful. The world is full of strange things. I came across many people who were beautiful, but when they smiled, their faces would look distorted, ugly. I have seen Mahatma Gandhi again only when I was a child. He was ugly to the core. I would say he was uniquely ugly, but his beauty was in his smile. He knew how to smile. About that I cannot be against him. My grandmother said, "It is impossible for me to go because I can't leave my child uncared for so many days." In Hindi, my child is a tremendously beautiful phrase. Mera beta, it means my child. The queen said, "There is no problem, you can bring him too. I also love him." I could not understand why she should love me. I haven't done anything wrong. Why should I be punished Just the very idea of being loved by the woman was as if a monster was crawling on you. I remember the palace. It is one of the most beautiful in India. A strange incident happened concerning that palace. I should call it a coincidence. On the day I said, "Okay, I am ready to move to the Himalayas." In India, the Lake of Bhopal is the greatest lake. I don't think there is any other lake in the world that can compete with it. I can't remember how many miles wide it is. Those 500 acres in the palace ground are part of the same lake, but they belong to the palace. I said, "It is too late. Tell the prince and his mother, if she is still alive, that we are thankful for their offer. But I have decided to go to the Himalayas. For 7 years I have been trying to find just a few thousand acres of land, and the politicians are always interfering. Tell him." I remember visiting your palace and your mother. Perhaps she is still alive. I don't know. But tell him, I love the palace and still do, even more so now that you have offered it to me. But I have decided to go to the Himalayas. My secretary was shocked and she said, "He is offering the palace to you and not even asking for any money. It must be worth at least $2 million. I said, $2 million or $20 million, it does not matter. My thank you is far more valuable. How many $1 million do you think it is worth? Just say to him he sends his thanks. But your offer came just a few hours too late. If you had offered the palace just a few hours earlier, he may have accepted it. Now nothing can be done at all." When he heard, the prince was shocked. He could not believe that one could offer such a palace without asking for anything in exchange and just be told, "Sorry, no thank you." I know the palace. I was guest there once in my childhood and once again later in my life. I have seen it through the eyes of a child and also through the eyes of the young man. No, I was not deceived when I had seen it as a child, but it was far more beautiful than I had understood it then. A child has limitations. His vision cannot imply all that is possible. He sees only that which is apparent. I also visited the palace as a young man, again as a guest, and I knew that it must be one of the most beautiful structures in the world. Sometimes it feels so good to refuse, because I already knew that if I accepted, there were bound to be troubles and infinitum. That palace could not be my palace. The politicians who have become are powerful, uneducated, would be bound to jump in. Although I refused, they still jumped in, thinking that the prince was lying, because how could anyone refuse such an offer? I've come to know that they are torturing him in every possible way to know why he offered me the palace. I did not accept it. Nothing happened in reality. But that was enough. Just a phone call. Indian politicians must be the worst in the world. Politicians are everywhere, but they are the worst. The reason is clear. For 2,000 years, India has been in slavery. In 1947, just by luck, India became free. The whole credit goes to Attlee, the English Prime Minister at that time. He was a socialist, a kind of dreamer. He thought about the equality and freedom and all kinds of great things. It was he who was really the father of Indian freedom. It is not that India earned it or even deserved it. It was just the luck to have Attlee as the Prime Minister. After 2,000 years of slavery, the Indians have become really cunning. Just in order to survive, the slave has to be cunning. The slavery has finished, but the cunningness continues. No Attlee could destroy it. It is not in anybody's hands. It has spread all over India. By the end of the century, India will be the most populated country in the world. Just think of it is enough for me not to sleep. Whenever I don't want to sleep, I think of India at the end of the century. I refused the beautiful palace. I still feel sorry that I had to refuse the only man who has come with an offer without even asking for money. Yet I had to. I certainly feel sorry for him. I had to refuse because I had decided. And once I decide, rightly or wrongly, I cannot go back. I cannot cancel it. It is not in my blood. It is just a kind of stubbornness. My first experience of that was not a simple encounter. It was complex in many ways. The man I had loved was dying. I had known him as my father. I once asked him, "Nana, why do you close your eyes sometimes when I am sitting by your side?" He said, "You will not understand, but perhaps someday I close my eyes so that I don't prevent you from doing whatever you are doing, whether it is right or wrong. It is not my business to prevent you. I have taken you away from your mother and father. If I cannot even give you freedom, then what was the point in taking you away from your parents? I only took you so that they would not interfere with you. How can I interfere? But you know, it is a great temptation sometimes. You are such a temptation. I never knew, otherwise I would not have taken the risk. Somehow you have a genius for finding the wrong things to do. I wonder how you go on finding so many things to do wrong. Either I am completely insane, or you are. I said, "Nana, you need not get worried. If anyone is insane, then it is me." And from that day I have been telling people, "Don't be bothered by me. I am a madman." I had said that to console him, and I am still saying it to console people who really are mad. But when you are in a madhouse, and you are the only one who is not mad, what can you do except to say to everybody, "Relax, I am a madman. Don't take me seriously." He used to close his eyes, but sometimes it was too much of a temptation. For example, one day I was riding on Buddha. our servant. I had ordered him to behave like a horse. First he looked bewildered, but my grandfather said, "What is wrong in that? Can't you act a little, Buddha? Behave like a horse." So he started doing everything a horse is supposed to do. That was too much in front of my grandfather. He closed his eyes and started chanting his mantra. Of course, I stopped, because when he started chanting his mantra, that means it was too much for him. He looked into my eyes. I looked into his eyes. For a moment there was just silence. He waited for me to speak. He had to yield. He said, "Okay, I should speak first." I said, "That's right, because if you had remained silent, I was going to remain silent my whole life. It is good that you spoke, so now I can answer you. What do you want to ask?" He said, "I have always wanted to ask you, why are you so mischievous?" I said, "That is a question you should reserve for God. When you meet him, ask him, why did you create this child so mischievous? You cannot ask me that. It is almost like asking, why are you, you? Now, how can that be answered?" He looked at me again and asked, "What do you mean?" I said, "You understand. If I am not allowed to be myself, then I won't enter this house again. So please be clear with me. Either I enter this house with the license to be myself, or I forget about this house and just be a wanderer. Tell me clear, and don't hesitate, come on." He laughed and said, "You can enter the house. It is your home. If I cannot resist interfering with you, then I will leave the house. You need not." That's exactly what he did. Just 2 months after this dialogue, he was no longer in the world. He not only left the house, he left everything. I loved the man because he loved my freedom. I can love only if my freedom is respected. In this world, almost everybody thinks that he loves, but if you look around at the lovers, they are prisoners to each other. What a strange kind of love. It is a fact that ordinarily people only think they love. They don't love because when love comes, where is I and thou? When love comes, it immediately brings a tremendous sense of freedom, non-possessiveness. But that love happens, unfortunately, very rarely. Love with freedom. Love with freedom. Love gives you the roots into the earth, and freedom gives you the wings. My grandfather gave me both. He gave his love to me more than he ever had given to either my mother or even my grandmother. Buddha, died just because he could not conceive of living in a world without his master. He simply died. He relaxed into death. He had come with us to my father's village because he had been driving the block cart. When for a moment he heard nothing, saw no word from the inside of the covered cart, he asked me, "Beta," it means son, "is everything okay?" Again and again Buddha asked, "Why this silence? Why is nobody speaking?" But he was the kind of man who would not look inside the curtain which divided him from us. How could he look inside when my grandmother was there? That was the trouble. He could not look, but again and again he asked, "What is the matter? Why everybody is silent?" I said, "There is nothing wrong. We are enjoying the silence. Nana wants us to be silent." That was a lie because Nana was dead. But in a way it was true. He was silent. That was the message for us to be silent. I finally said, "Buddha, everything is okay. Only Nana is gone." He could not believe it. He said, Then how can everybody is okay? Without him I cannot live." And within 24 hours he died, just as if a flower had closed. My father's town was, for India of course, just a small town. The population was only 20,000. It had a hospital and a school. We tried everything possible to save Buddha. The doctor in the hospital was amazed because he could not believe that this man was Indian. He looked so European. He must have been a freak of biology. Buddha was in shock because of his master's death. We had to lie to him until we go to the town. Only when we reached the town and the corpse was taken out of the block cart did Buddha see what had happened. He then closed his eyes and never opened them again. He said, "I cannot see my master dead." And that was only a master-servant relationship. But there had arisen between them a certain intimacy, a certain closeness, which is indefinable. Before my grandfather died, he had told my grandmother, "Take care of Buddha. I know you will take care of Raja. I do not have to tell you that, but take care of Buddha. He has served me as nobody else could." I told the doctor, Can you understand the kind of devotion that must have extended between these two men?" The doctor asked me, "Is he a European?" I said, "He looks like one." The doctor said, "Don't be tricky. You are a child, only 7 or 8. But very tricky. When I asked whether your grandfather was dead, you said no, and that was not true." I said, "No, it was true. He is not dead. A man of such love cannot be dead. If love can be dead, then there is no hope for the world. I cannot believe that a man who respected my freedom is dead just because he cannot breathe." The European doctor looked at me suspiciously and told my uncle, "This boy will either be a philosopher or else he will so mad." He was wrong. I am both together. There is no question of either or. I am nor Søren Kierkegaard. There is no question of either or. But I wondered why he could not believe me. Such a simple thing. But simple things are the most difficult to believe. The easiest to believe. If I had to choose only one statement from the whole of literature in any language of the world, I would choose this strange fellow about whom nothing much is known. Tertullian. He said, "Credo qua absurdum." I believe because it is absurd. It seems someone must have asked him what he believes in and why, and Tertullian answered, "Credo qua absurdum." It is absurd, that's why I believe. The reason for believing given by Tertullian is absurdum, because it is absurd. For a moment, forget Tertullian. Drop the curtain on him. Look at the roses. Why do you love them? Is it not absurd? There is no reason to love them. If someone persists in asking further why you love roses, you are going to shrug your shoulders. That is credo qua absurdum. That shrug. That is the whole meaning of Tertullian's philosophy. I could not understand why the doctor could not believe that my grandfather was not dead. I knew and he knew that as far as the body was concerned, it was finished. There was no quarrel about it. But there is something more than the body. In the body and yet not part of the body. Let me repeat it to emphasize it. In the body and yet not of the body. Love reveals it. Freedom gives it wings to soar in the sky. In the cart, my grandfather said to me, "Stop the car, stop the wheel. And I told him, "We have heard you, Nana, and we understand. Please be silent." In that moment, something great happened. I have never revealed it to anybody. Please be silent. The block cart was rattling on a rough road. It was not even a road. I said, "Stop." He said, "Stop the wheel, Raja. Do you hear? Stop the wheel." Again and again I told him, "Yes, I do hear you. I understand what you mean. You know that nobody except you can stop the wheel. So please be silent. I will try to help you." Nani was amazed. She looked at me with such big, amazing eyes. What was I saying? How could I help? I said, "Yes, don't look so amazed. I have suddenly remembered one of my past lives. Seeing his death, I've remembered one of my own deaths. That life and death happened in Tibet. That is the only country which knows how to stop the wheel." Then I started chanting something. Neither my grandmother could understand, No, my dying grandfather, no, my servant Buddha, who was listening intensely from the outside. And what is more, neither could I understand a single word of what I was chanting. It was only after 12 or 13 years that I came to understand what it was. It took that much time to discover it. It was Bardo Tedol, a Tibetan ritual. When a man dies in Tibet, they repeat a certain mantra. That mantra is called Bardo. The mantra says to him, relax, be silent, go to your center, just be there. Don't leave it whatsoever happens to the body. Just be witness. Let it happen. Don't interfere. Remember, remember. Remember that you are only a witness. That is your true nature. If you can die remembering, the will is stopped. I repeated the Bardo Tedol for my dying grandfather without even knowing what I was doing. It was strange, not only that I repeated it, but also that he became utterly silent listening to it. Perhaps Tibetan was such a strange thing to hear. He may never have heard a single word in Tibetan before. He may not even have known that there was a country called Tibet. Even in his death, he became utterly attentive and silent. The Bardo worked, although he could not understand it. No great surgeon can operate on his own child. Why? No great surgeon can operate on his own beloved. I don't mean his wife. Anyone can operate on his wife. I mean his beloved, who certainly is not his wife and can never be. To reduce your beloved into your wife is a crime. It is, of course, unpunished by law, but nature itself punishes. So there is no need for any law. No lover can be reduced into a husband. It is ugly to have a husband. The very word is ugly. It comes from the same root as husbandry. The husband is one who uses the woman as a field, a farm. The word husband has to be completely erased from every language in the world. I was repeating the Bardo though I did not understand its meaning. To live in silence is beautiful, but to die in silence is far more beautiful, because death is like an Everest, the highest peak in the Himalayas. Although nobody taught me, I learned much in that moment of silence. I saw myself repeating something absolutely strange. It shocked me to a new plane of being and pushed me into a new dimension. I started on new search, a pilgrimage. On this pilgrimage, I have met many more remarkable men than Gurujev recounts in his book, Meeting with Remarkable Men. By and by, as and when it happens, I will talk about them. Today, I can talk about one of those remarkable men. His real name is not known, nor his real age, but he was called Maga Baba. Maga simply means big cup. He always used to keep his maga, his cup, He used it for everything, for his tea, his milk, his food, for the money people gave him, or whatsoever the moment demanded. All he possessed was his maga, and that is why he was known as Maga Baba. Maga Baba was certainly one of the most remarkable men that may ever have lived on this planet. He was really one of the chosen ones. You can count him with Jesus, Lao Tzu. He did not speak. People persisted in asking questions or of all kinds. He either remained silent, or if they nagged too much, he started shouting gibberish, rubbish, just meaningless sounds. Those poor people thought he was speaking in a language that perhaps they didn't understand. He was not using language at all. He was just making sounds. And the poor people would say, "Yes, Baba, yes." Then he would show his maga and make the sign. This sign in India means money. It comes from the old days when there were real gold and silver coins. People used to check whether it was real gold or not by throwing the coin to the ground and listening to its sound. I would laugh myself to tears because he had not said anything, but he was not greedy for money. He would take from one person and give it to another. His maga was always empty. Once in a while, there would be something in it, but rarely. It was a passage. Money would come into it and go. Food would come into it and go, and it always remained empty. He was always cleaning it. I have seen him morning, evening, and afternoon, always cleaning it. I want to confess to you, you means the world, that I was the only person to whom he used to speak, but only in privacy. When nobody else was present, I would go to him deep in the night, perhaps 2 o'clock in the morning, because that was the most likely time to find him alone. He would be hugged up in his old blanket, or a winter's night, by the side of the fire. I would sit at his side for a while. I never disturbed him. That was the one reason why he loved me. He was not a Hindi-speaking person, so people thought it was difficult to communicate with him. But that is not true. He was certainly not a Hindi-oriented person, but he knew not only Hindi, but many other languages too. Of course, he knew the language of silence the most. He remained silent almost all his life. Maga Baba never said anything about his own life, but he said many things about life. He was the first man who told me life is more than what it appears to be. Don't judge by its appearance, but go deep down into the valley where the roots of life are. He would suddenly speak and suddenly he would be silent. That was his way. I have heard many great speakers, and he was just a poor man, but his words were pure honey, so sweet and nourishing, and so pregnant with meaning. But he told me, You are not to tell anybody that I have been speaking to you until I die, because many people think I am deaf. It is good for me that they think so. Many think that I am mad. One day he departed to Himalayas. He called me. He said, "This is my last night here. I am leaving perhaps forever. You are the only one I have spoken to. Forgive me. I had to speak to that man I sent to you. But he knows nothing. He does not know me as a spiritual man. He was a stranger and I bribed him simply by giving him 1 rupee and told him to deliver the message to your house. In those days, 1 gold rupee was so much. 40 years ago, in India, 1 gold rupee was almost enough to live on in perfect comfort for 1 month. Do you know the English word rupee comes from the Hindi word rupaya, which means the golden. In fact, a paper note should not be called a rupee. It is not golden. He said, I just gave him 1 rupee and told him to deliver the message. He was so bewildered by the rupee that he did not even look at me. He was a stranger. I have never seen him before. I said, I can also say the same. I have never seen the man either in this town. Perhaps he is a passerby. But there is no need to be worried about it. Why did you have to call me? He said, I am leaving and there is nobody whom I could call to say goodbye to. You are the only one. He hugged me, kissed my forehead. Magababa had disappeared many times in his life. So when he disappeared last, nobody bothered much. Only after a few months did people become aware that he had really disappeared, that he had not come back for many months. The night before he disappeared, he told me, I may not be able to see you blossom to a flower, but my blessing will be with you. It may not be possible for me to return. I am going to the Himalayas. Don't say anything to anybody about my whereabouts. He was so happy when he was saying this to me, so blissful that he was going to the Himalaya. The Himalaya have always been the home of all those who have searched and found. I didn't know where he had gone because the Himalayas is the biggest range of mountains in the world. But once, while traveling in the Himalayas, I came to a place which seemed to be his grave. Strange to say, it was by the side of the Moses and Jesus. Those 2 persons are also buried deep in the Himalayas. I had gone rather to see the grave of Jesus. It was just a coincidence that I found Moses and Maga Baba too. It was a surprise, of course. I could never have imagined that Maga Baba had anything to do with Moses or Jesus. But seeing his grave there, I understood immediately why his face was so beautiful, why he looked more like Moses than any other Hindu. Perhaps he belonged to the lost tribe. Moses had lost a tribe while he was on the way to Israel. That tribe settled in Kashmir in the Himalayas, and I say it authoritatively that That tribe was more correct in finding Israel than Moses himself. What Moses found in Israel was just a desert, utterly useless. What they have found in Kashmir was really the garden of God. Moses went there in search of his lost tribe. Jesus also went there after his so-called crucifixion. I'm calling it so-called because it did not really happen. He remained alive. After 6 hours on the cross, Jesus was not dead. The way Jews used to crucify people was such a crude method that it took almost 36 hours for a person to die. It was arranged by a very rich disciple of Jesus that the crucifixion should happen on a Friday. It was an arrangement because on Saturday Jews don't allow any work to be continued. It is their holy day. Jesus had to be put down off the cross into the cave temporarily until the coming Monday. Midnight he was stolen from the cave. That's a story Christians tell. The real fact is that on the night he went in the cave, after having been taken down from the cross, he was taken away from Israel. He was alive although he had lost much blood. It took a few days to heal him, but he was healed and he lived up to the age of 112 in a small village called Pahalgam in the Kashmir Himalayas. He chose the place Pahalgam because he found the grave of Moses there. Moses had gone before him to search for his lost tribe. He found it, but also found that Israel is nothing compared to the Kashmir. There is no other place to be compared to Kashmir. He lived and died there. I mean Moses. And when Jesus went to Kashmir with Thomas, his disciple, he sent Thomas to show India his way. He himself lived in Kashmir near the grave of Moses for his remaining life. Baba is buried in the same small village of Pahalgam. When I was in Pahalgam, I discovered a strange relationship, learning from Moses to Jesus to Baba and to me. Before Baba left my village, he gave me his blanket saying, "This is my only possession and you are the only one I would like to give it to." I said, "That's okay, but my father will not allow me to bring this blanket inside the house." He left. I left. We both enjoyed. He knew perfectly well that my father would not allow such a dirty blanket. But I was sad and sorry not to have preserved that blanket. It was nothing much, a dirty old leg, but it belonged to a man of the category of a Buddha. I could not take it to my house because my father was a clothes merchant and very careful about clothes. I knew perfectly well that he would not allow it. I could not take it to my grandmother's house either. To me, Baba was important, but if I had to choose between my nanny and him, I would still choose my nanny. Although she was not enlightened then, and Baba was, sometimes an unenlightened person is so beautiful that one would choose them, even though the enlightened one is available as an alternative. Of course, if I could choose both, I would. Or if I had a choice of two among the whole world of millions of people, then I would have them both. Magababa on the outside, he wouldn't enter my grandmother's house. That fellow, my nanny used to call him. That fellow, forget about him and never go close to him. Even when you just pass by him, always take a shower. She was always afraid he had lice, because nobody had ever seen him take a bath. Perhaps she was right. They could not exist together. Coexistence could not be possible. But we could always make arrangements. Magababa could always be under the neem tree outside in the country yard. And Nana could be the queen in the house. And I could have the love of them both without having to choose this or that. I hate either or.